Well, I got into NAMM at about 20 minutes ago. Been playing drums for a while, and here I am. Yeah.
What's your name?
My name's Mark. I play drums too, and yeah, happy to be here. I mean, this is a pretty unique environment, but you know, it's an opportunity to meet guys like this and hang out with guys like you. Yeah.
The coolest stuff I've seen is at this booth. Okay. We were just talking about this weird Ampeg mixer back here, and there's plenty of other vintage oddities that I've either never seen or never seen in person, which is great. But I wasn't joking when I said I got here 20 minutes ago. But I think it's going to be hard to top all this fun stuff here.
You know, usually it's difficult to single out one thing. However, yesterday at the Gretsch booth, I saw the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. They're starting to remake those old thrones that's essentially just a shell. It's a fixed height. You know, it's just got the pad on top and it's a shell. And they're making them again with all the old, like, satin flame, like...
Do they make them for different
heights? What's that?
Do they make them for different heights?
That you,
if you're really short, that could be a problem.
You would just order it to your height. So once it's customized, it's kind of fixed.
That's cool.
But
yeah.
it would greatly, to have a seat like that would greatly help me on my path to try to be as much like Elvin Jones as I can. So that's been a missing ingredient. The authentic seat.
My favorites are Joe Morello, Louis Bellson, Buddy Rich, obviously.
Wow, cool, yeah.
But that's really as kind of far as I've gone. But
I'm afraid for him to check out Elvin. I don't know what's going to happen if you check out Elvin.
I know that's not in the same exact, you know, but as far as a vague world, that's as close as I've gotten. I'm not a fan of Mitch Mitchell. Really? And I don't mean to sound... Are you smiling because you agree with me or because it's
opinions.
Blasphemous?
No, I just love that you have an opinion.
It's... I've never been a fan, and I'm not a fan of Ginger Baker either. And here's the thing. I love Cream, and I love Hendrix. But I don't know if it was a three-piece thing at the time, but I feel like those two drummers, whether it was ego, whether it was just in fashion at the time, I don't feel like they understood, I'm going to sit back and let the guitar player or the bass player do their thing. So a lot of times I'm trying to listen to Hendrix or I'm trying to listen to Clapton and Jack Bruce, and I'm like, would you just stop doing that? Whereas I can listen to Led Zeppelin all day long, and Bonham, although he can be active and throw energy in there, he knew when to get out of the way, you know?
And I think you have a unique perspective as not just being a drummer. You're hearing and seeing and thinking about the music from the guitar player's perspective.
That could be, and thank you, yeah. And just to not retract what I said, but to make it less damning. I mean, Ginger Baker, for example, Toad. I actually enjoy listening to Toad far more than, say, his drumming in I'm So Glad, where it's just like, dude, you need to stop. Just when you have a bass player that good and a guitar player that good, and they're both playing lead at the same time, there isn't room for a drum solo.
It's interesting how you reference the older instruments versus newer instruments. Sometimes for me, the newer instruments or computer-based music, it's like the options are limitless, and then I can't get anything done. So sometimes I reach for this one-dimensional thing. This thing does one thing well, but I'm gonna, oh cool, now I know what it does, and I'm gonna try to use that as a tool to get to a new place. You know?
I agree with that. I'm very much the same way, where, I mean, I do love plugins. I'm sure we both use a ton, but I'll often reach for or click on a plugin that's a model of something, because I know the boundaries are there. It's fun to experiment with something that's limitless, like a lot of the Native Instruments stuff is great, and it's ingenious, and it's also very complex if you want it to be, but I do love going to a Jupiter 8 plugin where I was like, okay, I know what this is supposed to do, I know I can get it.
For me, I'm really afraid to get too excited by demos, you know, so oftentimes I'll try to seek out really dumb sounds so that if there's still some inspiration left, it's the content that's inspiring. It's not camouflaged by some beautiful sound, and then, you know, but if you were bring that to a piano or something, like, this is dumb. You know, it's the sound that got me excited. Yeah. So usually I'm using dumb sounds to rely on the content, but now just the Arturi stuff is like, I just need a little more love from the sounds, So and
Do you play with drum machines? Do you enjoy that at all?
Yeah, I do.
It's fun.
I do.
There's nothing more I'm sure everybody could agree, especially people at Reverb. There's nothing more frustrating than a piece of gear that doesn't work properly. I don't care if it's vintage. I don't care if it's the holy grail of whatever. If it doesn't work properly when you need it, you just want to turn it off or throw it away or something. I have a Prophet 5 at home that I loved. I couldn't get enough of it. And then the filter started doing this weird thing where I'm like, now I have this 40-pound hunk of wood that I can't use, and I have to go ship it out. And I would also venture to say that it's much easier to model drum machines because they're far less complex. So I'm very happy with the new drum machines, the Electron stuff, even the like the Roland era stuff, because I don't find myself using 808s or 909s very often. I'll use a hi-hat or a bass drum or something, and I'm completely content with a new version of it. I don't need a 1980 808 to be like, yeah, that's the sound. And
right.
Guess what? You can tune it, which is nice too. Yeah.
And for me, we were talking about it before, sometimes, for me, it's important just kind of morally to hit some sort of hardware at some point just to give it some air, like a Space Echo. I feel like that works in all music at all times, to varying degrees.
What's your favorite model?
The 201. I'm like, hey, if you see one, if anybody has one out there. But yeah, it's, say it is the Prophet 5 plugin or Arturi something. Okay, still a demo, it's just flesh out ideas. But to then maybe go out, hit that and come back, and it just gives it a little more life, and it's a little more real. Maybe it's still placebo effect, but that, for me, you could really get a lot done. Say you take the new 808, let it hit something, even a distortion pedal, it's $60 distortion pedal. Oh, whoa. Now something's going on.
I completely agree with you. I find myself doing that a lot with the Analog Heat by Electron. Amazing, and actually running acoustic drums out, just running like, let's say, your room mics or just a stereo pair in and out of that. I used it all over the place on all the latest New Regime stuff that I've done, which is my solo project. And I mean, everyone talks about saturating drums and pushing things to the limit. That's a great box that works for everything. Vocals, even let's say you have a guitar bus and you just need a little bit more, or bass. It works on everything. So I was constantly running things in and out on that particular box. It's fantastic. Because usually, in my experience, I found you get something for distortion, and once you get to a certain point, like 70% of it is unusable. It's just too much, or it's not quite enough, and you barely get to where you're going for. I feel you always need that wiggle room of being able to push it too far so you know when to come back. Well, I mean, that's the way I like to do it. I always like to maybe it's a little too dirty and I have to bring it back. But that box, everything is usable on it.